very good afternoon to everybody and a very warm welcome to our Living in Spain 10 Frequently Asked Questions webinar hosted by myself, Nicole Sandler, and my colleague John Diking. So this webinar is very much devised for people who are looking to move to Spain, or perhaps for individuals that are already residing here in Spain. And what the format will be is that we will run through the 10 question and answers. And at the end, if you have any specific questions of your own, please feel very free to write the question throughout the webinar into the chat box or into the Q&A icon that you can see along the top toolbar of the webinar. And then at the end of this, we will make sure that we answer any questions that you may have. We're also very happy to provide a complimentary 1-hour consultation to viewers of this particular webinar to use within the next month. So if you do have specific questions, we're very happy to help you on a one-to-one basis and help you devise a clear and simple strategy free of charge. And part of what we really do at Chase Buchanan is we help individuals with their investments, pensions, estate planning, and also their tax planning. When people are looking to transition to Spain or other countries that we operate in, the conversations and the processes typically starts by us creating a strategic plan for visas, logistics, and timings before moving here, keeping in mind the cross-border residency rules. We then point them in the right direction to coordinate that particular stage of the process. And we receive lots and lots of questions from foreign nationals day in, day out. So what we've done is we've compiled the 10 most frequently asked questions that we receive from individuals looking to move to Spain, but also from individuals already living here. So I hope these 10 questions are useful and helpful for you. But between John and myself, we have worked with thousands of foreign nationals moving to and living here in Spain. We both live permanently in Spain. John's been here, I think it's over 20 years now. I've been here for 9 years, and our primary focus is really helping our clients live in Spain in the most tax efficient way possible. So that then gives them peace of mind for themselves, but also for their families as well. So I'm just going to, I'm just adding some people that are in the lobby, or John, I don't know if you're doing that.
Oh, apologies, I should have done that. But yeah, I've just accepted everyone that were pending.
Great,
right,
okay.
So, to people that just joined us, welcome to this webinar. And we just started 2 minutes ago, just to introduce us very briefly. This is Chase Buchanan, Wealth Management in Spain, and both Nicole and myself have been here living in Spain for many, many years, advising expatriates. So as you missed a few minutes, there'll be a recording we'll send to you later, so you can just see that introduction bit as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for the recap, John. So now we'll go through and we'll split 5 questions for John and 5 questions for myself, and we will answer the 10 most frequently asked questions that we receive from individuals moving to Spain and for people already residing in Spain. So hopefully you can see my slides.
Yeah.
Okay, John, the first 5 questions are for you.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yeah.
Question 1 is, I am a Spanish resident with a UK property. Where do I pay tax on the rental income that I receive?
Right, so quite a few things to consider when you have a UK property you live in Spain. So UK rental income will be liable to tax in the UK because that's where the property is physically situated. However, you'll also be subject to tax in Spain because you're a Spanish resident. So you are then subject to tax on your worldwide income and gains. There's also a double taxation treaty in place between Spain and the UK, and it's there to make sure that you don't pay the same tax twice. Now, what happens is that any tax already paid in the UK will be credited against your tax liability in Spain. So you will be subject to tax in both jurisdictions, in Spain and the UK. And you should also remember to declare your property on the Modelo 720 in Spain, which is an overseas asset reporting declaration due at the end of March each year.
Great, thanks, John. Question 2 is, I'm a resident in Spain, but I'm selling a UK-based property. Where do I pay capital gains tax on the sale profit?
Yeah, so in this case, if you've owned a property prior to April 2015, when you sell the UK property, you'll be subject to capital gains tax in the UK on the gain element since the 6th of April 2015 until the sale date. You'll also have your UK capital gains tax allowance, which you can still use even if you're a Spanish resident. However, because you are a Spanish resident, the sale of the UK property will also mean that you'll be subject to capital gains tax in Spain. So there is a double taxation agreement in place, as I mentioned earlier, designed to make sure that you don't pay the same tax twice. So any capital gains tax paid in the UK will be credited against the tax liability here in Spain. You should also bear in mind, as you get a property in the UK, as time goes on, the property value will probably go up over time, and any tax liability that you would have on the sale would go up as well. So if you are a Spanish resident with a UK property, if you are considering selling it, now may be a good time to consider your financial planning. So as you can see, Spanish residents holding a UK property are not really very tax efficient, because you're subject to income tax, capital gains tax, and also eventually death taxes in both Spain and the UK. So it's important that you seek professional financial advice before you move to Spain, because that can save you a lot of tax. If, for example, this property was your main residence in the UK, you could potentially have sold it tax-free before you became a Spanish tax resident.
Great, thank you, John. Question 3 is, can I draft a will in Spain to look after my worldwide assets, like an international will?
Right, so typically we would recommend that you draft a will in any country where you hold assets. That will speed up the probate process and also ensure that they don't contradict one another. So you can have several wills in several countries. You can have wills in several countries if you have assets in various countries. And a Spanish will needs to be drafted as a Spanish notary. And if you want to engage a lawyer, they can help you to make sure that it's designed to your situation and that your different wills in different countries don't contradict one another.
Great. Okay, thanks, John. Question 4 is, does opting for British law to apply in my Spanish will mean UK taxes will therefore apply?
Yeah, this is a very common confusion. So a lot of people think it's, that British law linked to forced hardship is somehow linked to taxation, and it's got nothing to do with it. So several years ago, just to give some background on this, several years ago, there was a piece of European legislation called Brussels 4, which came through, and it states that as a Spanish resident, you can opt for your country of nationality, for example, British common law, to apply to Spanish will. So, but this has nothing to do with taxes. This is purely about how your assets are distributed on your death. So Spanish civil law dictates how assets are distributed under forced hardship rules. So in Spain, when you die, by default, the majority of your assets will normally go to your children, for example, whilst British law allows you to choose between who the beneficiaries, you have total freedom of choice choosing beneficiaries, and you can also choose the percentage terms that you wish each beneficiary to receive. You should also bear in mind it's important to have a will that's up to date. So if you don't have an up-to-date will, make sure that you update it. And if you don't have a will at all in place, that we would urge you to contact a lawyer or notary to draft one up.
Great. Thanks, John. And question 5 for you is, does UK inheritance tax apply now that I'm living in Spain?
Right. So this is quite a complex question because there are lots of caveats here, but I'll try to sum this up as simply as possible. So if you have UK assets, they are always going to be subject to UK inheritance tax because the assets are physically located in the UK. For example, if you hold a UK property or a UK bank account, they will attract UK IHT since they are in the UK. But if you're also deemed to be a UK domicile person when you pass away, then you'll be subject to UK inheritance tax on your worldwide assets, so not just assets in the UK. And that's irrespective of where you live. So keep in mind your domicile can be completely different to where you're tax resident, and it can be different to your nationality. So domicile is quite complex, and there is kind of like a gray area. It's sometimes difficult to determine whether a person is domiciled in Spain or the UK or any other country. So lots of factors that that we should look into to try to determine that. It can be how long you've lived abroad, any ties that you still have to the UK, for example. So if anyone wants guidance in this area, then we'd be happy to help them out. Just let us know and we'll review your situation. If you have Spanish assets, or if you live in Spain and receive an inheritance from someone anywhere in the world, then you're also going to be subject to Spanish inheritance tax. So whilst death taxes are not covered by the double taxation agreement between Spain and the UK, the way it works in a daily basis is that any taxes that you pay on death in the UK are normally credited to your Spanish inheritance tax liability. So it's almost like if there was an agreement in place because you're not going to pay the same tax twice. Right, Nicole, I think it's my turn to ask questions now.
Okay.
Put you on the fence.
Yeah.
Right, so question number 6 then. If one of us passes away, is our joint investment frozen, as happens with some Spanish bank accounts?
So, okay, while Spanish situated assets would typically be frozen, such as bank accounts, we specialize in setting up international Spanish tax compliant investments for our clients. And what tax compliant means is that it's liked and it's approved and it's understood by the Spanish tax authorities. And these compliant investment structures would just continue, but in the survivor's name, and nothing is frozen. So that means that the surviving spouse would then be the sole owner of that particular policy. And that means that they can continue to take withdrawals as and when and if they need to.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Right, so question number 7. Are my UK ISAs and premium bonds tax efficient in Spain?
Okay, so the short answer here is no. Premium bonds and ISAs are very great and tax efficient investments in the UK, but they are fully subject to income tax here in Spain, and therefore they're not tax efficient at all to hold in Spain. So if you are still in the UK, it really is best to make use of these investments whilst you're still a UK resident. And if the value of these investments is greater than €50,000, don't forget that you'll need to declare these particular investments on the Modelo 720 in Spain, which is the overseas asset reporting form due at the end of March each year.
Right, thank you, Nicole. Next question, number 8. Can I take my pension lump sum tax-free in Spain like I can in the UK?
Okay, so in the UK, you can withdraw up to 25% as a tax-free lump sum on most pensions once you reach pensionable age, and that's age 55. And whilst it is tax-free in the UK, that 25% is fully subject to income tax here in Spain. So again, if you are still a UK resident and you're thinking of moving to Spain with a pension, it's really important that you seek financial advice on your pension before you move here to Spain, because there are certain steps and analysis that needs to take place for you to consider before you move here.
Thanks, Nicole. Just 2 questions to go now. Right, question number 9. I have a long-standing relationship with my financial advisor in the UK. Can they continue to advise me on my investments and pensions?
So UK-based financial advisors no longer have what's called passporting rights in the European Union post-Brexit. So this means that unless the UK firm has sought passporting rights in the EU, and almost all of them haven't, unfortunately, that means that they can no longer provide you with financial advice once you're no longer resident in the UK. It's something that could actually have a huge impact on your policies going forwards, because basic administration such as withdrawals or just updating your details, or more important tasks such as fund changes, none of these things can actually take place without having financial advice. And these are Brexit-related changes, so they actually happened back on the 1st of January 2021. However, we're still receiving lots of questions about this particular topic. So I think it's a case that a lot of people aren't actually aware of this regulation change post-Brexit. So if you haven't left the UK yet, we would strongly advise you to update your UK-based financial advisor on your plans to relocate to Europe, and assess if they have the ability to support you once you have relocated to Europe. So let's now assume that they don't have the permissions to advise you once you've left the UK. We would then also recommend that you engage with a financial advisor based in Spain who is regulated under the relevant European directives. So these are called MiFID II and also IDD. MiFID is the Markets in Financial Instruments Directive, and IDD just stands for the Insurance Distribution Directive. So that's one really important factor from a Spanish-based financial advisor. Also ensure that they have the right qualifications, the right experience, and the right knowledge that's necessary to give you professional wealth management advice that's relevant to life here in Spain. That means that they should also have a comprehensive knowledge of the regional tax laws in Spain, of the specific area that you're moving to, because Spain is actually set into 17 different autonomous regions, and each one of those autonomous regions does their own thing from a tax law point of view. So it's important that the person you speak to knows the tax rules for that specific region that you're moving to. And I know all of this sounds like a lot, which it is, but there are a lot of requirements, I think, to give you good, high quality advice. John and myself and our colleagues here in Spain, we've all lived and breathed Spanish taxation for many years. I forgot to say actually at the outset, I'm actually based in a town called Javier on the Costa Blanca, so I'm in Comunidad Valenciana. John is based down in the south of Spain, close to Malaga. And so we've been living and breathing Spanish taxation day in, day out for many, many years, and we possess all of these specific attributes that I've just mentioned.
Thanks, Nicole. Right, so we come to the last question now, number 10. It's quite topical as well, because there's been some recent changes to pensions legislation in the UK budget that was announced just a few weeks ago. So the question is about pensions. Pension pots in the UK, do I need to take any action when I move to Spain?
Yeah, I echo your comments there, John. So the pension landscape is an area that has changed dramatically over recent years, especially since the end of 2021, and again more recently with the budget. So in addition to consideration over the tax-free lump sum that we spoke about before, just really understanding what your pension options are once you move is very, very important. So factors such as whether you should keep your pension where it is in the UK, or should you be considering transferring it to something that's more suitable once you live in Europe. These are the sorts of conversations that need to be had. And like John alluded to, individuals who have pensions that were close to the UK lifetime allowance potentially have a great window of opportunity right now to act. And that's because the Labour Party in the UK have come out and said, well, if we gain power, we're going to reinstate the UK lifetime allowance. So they're just understanding whether a pension should be transferred out of the UK or not is a very suitable and worthwhile discussion for you to be having, but it needs to happen right now because of this potential change. Just to say, pensions in general, it's a really highly complex part of financial services. Therefore, it does involve a lot of analysis to make sure that it's the right decision for you as an individual, because there's so many different variables in place with pensions. So just to say on that, we can help guide you and navigate you through all of those complexities around pensions to just establish what's the most suitable option for you and your individual pension circumstances.
Right. Thank you so much, Nicole. So yeah, maybe we should just move on and check what we got in the chat box. And I can see there aren't too many questions, and this is quite normal for this kind of webinar because financial questions can be quite complex and very individual. So people tend to come to us after the webinars and ask us very specific questions. But there is one question here from Sasko. So I'll read it out and we can hopefully respond to this question. He says, if my company open a representative office in Spain, where should be paid social security contributions and taxes for future employees in representative office? If I will be appointed as the chief of the representative office, will I gain Spanish residence? Right, so not knowing what type of company it is, or you know, from what country your employees are moving over, it's difficult to give a precise answer to that question. Oh, Macedonia, right? Okay, so Macedonia not part of the European Union, so we got the visa requirements first of all. But in terms of taxation, if I would say as a general rule, if your employees and yourself, if you spend at least 183 days in Spain, you become tax resident. So if you live here, you work here, you work for a company here, then by default, you need to pay Spanish social security and you be liable for tax on your worldwide income in Spain. But, you know, I'm not saying this is a definite answer because this depends on what type of visa you yourself and your employees come down on. You got this recently introduced digital nomad visa as well, which has got various tax advantages. So yeah, it's something that can be looked into on an individual basis. It's very difficult to give you a very generic answer to the question. So feel free to reach out to us. Do you want to add something, Nicole?
Didn't mean to interject. I was just going to say, just to add to that, I would actually recommend, and we can point you in the right direction for some contacts for this. We're 100% independent, so we have no corporate affiliations to anybody, but just from being here for so long, we have lots and lots of good contacts for lawyers, immigration specialists, visa specialists, and Spanish accountants. So we would also recommend that you speak to a Spanish-based accountant about this particular scenario, because I think they can guide you further on these points as well.
Absolutely. So feel free to reach out to us if you get any further question on this, Sasko. Right. So just to wrap things up, thanks to Nicole and thanks to everyone who are watching this. We hope that these questions and answers were interesting. Oh, sorry. Is there another question?
Sorry, there is.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Shall I read it out? Okay.
So, yeah, sorry. It's just about Daisy. She's still typing. So she said, I'm looking for someone to assist me with tax who understands both Scottish and Spanish tax systems. I have 2 properties I rent out in Scotland. And I did not realize the system was not the same in Scotland. Yeah, and there are slightly different rules as well. Okay. Yeah, not to worry. I understand it must be concerning, but the good news is you've got information now, so we can help guide you on that and point you in the right direction. But so we're not accountants, just to say. We understand the ins and outs of Spanish taxation, and we look at it from a strategic point of view and set up structures to minimize tax. And we work very, very closely with accountants who will submit any personal or business related income tax returns. Yeah, so we can definitely assist and point you in the right direction, and we can provide you with the overall guidance between Spain and the UK of the properties to do with income tax and how it works with the rental. It also depends if it's let for a long term, and there's quite a few questions we would need to ask you, and then we can guide you further, but we can help with that for sure.
Absolutely. So we hope that these questions and answers were interesting for you, are useful, and you may come up with questions after this. You may have a think about this, and something pops up you wanted to ask, you didn't ask now. So just feel free to reach out to us afterwards, and we'll be happy to help you out.